everybody. Welcome back. Welcome to this, the Warhammer Book Club. We have to call it Warhammer Book Club now because there are not 40k books coming.
Yes, we have
there's like
every Warhammer book.
A Warhammer book. So it's the Warhammer Book Club now. I'm Arbiterian. This is Mira Manga. And we talk about Warhammer books. We read them. I often reread them. You read them for the first time, and then we talk about them to you. Sometimes based on your suggestions, though. To be fair, we are doing quite badly at that this year.
We are. We suck.
Yeah, we accidentally started Gaunt's Ghost and the Horus Heresy, and that has put the suggestion game. Unless you want to suggest the next Horus Heresy book. Yeah, that's really screwed that up a bit. Anyway, you can find us on various podcast channels. I promise one day in the future, honest. And of course, YouTube. And all the details on the thing below. What book are we doing today, Mira?
Today we're doing Necropolis. I always get that out of focus, don't I?
Yeah, because it goes wrong. Yeah, this is really interesting if you're listening to this. We've got the book. Necropolis, the polis of death.
Necros?
Yeah.
Oh, very good.
Yeah, City of Death.
Yep.
Which is like half of all places in 40k.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is the third Gaunt's Ghost book, and many would argue the first proper one.
Ian would argue.
Many people would say that. Dan ABNETT would not say that. No. So we should say now that, as we've said in the last two, this comes from Dan ABNETT telling you to read his books.
Yes. Dan is very kind and has chatted to both Ian and I about his books.
Yeah.
And he is welcome on my channel where I think I've become his remembrancer. So we get to talk about all the books. So we'll be talking about more Gaunt's Ghost books on my channel, but that means you and I also must talk about
these books. And you interviewed Dan.
I did.
About the three books, because he insisted that if you're going to read any, you have to read the whole first three.
Yeah.
So we've done. First and only. First and only. That's the first.
We've done Ghostmaker, which is my favourite so far.
And now we're going to do Necropolis, the first one.
Ian's favourite. Shall we continue?
I think it's a lot of people's favourite.
If it's your favourite, please do something. Please, can you do the ghost emoji in the comments?
Oh yeah, that's a good idea. Oh, we should. Why didn't we think of that before? Okay,
so if Necropolis is your favourite, do a ghost below. If First and Only is your favourite, do the number one emoji, or write a 1.
Or go to that video and put a ghost in that one. And then we can have like whichever video's got the most ghost comments is the most favoured one.
Okay.
Right?
Go to the video that... Oh, we're making this complicated. Go to the video of the book that you like the best. First and Only, Ghostmaker, Necropolis. And basically put a ghost in the comment.
Yeah, that's what we're going to do. Right.
Okay.
So that and the bastard scale is on for this. Yeah.
I'm going to be really sad if this is the winner, but...
I think that's a really popular one. So look, right. So we're doing Necropolis. It is the third Gaunt's Ghost book. We've spoken about the previous two. It is fair to say, this book feels different.
This was awful. This was absolutely diabolical.
This is the one.
Oh, my Lord.
This is the first one where I'm like, oh, it's a Dan ABNETT book.
Really?
Yeah, because Dan ABNETT is famous for doing two sorts of things, right? One of them is like the Eisenhorn action behind the scenes thing.
Right.
And the other one is the colossal sweeping war narrative with 500 points of view where everyone's having a bad time.
Oh Lord. Yeah, I mean, I'd argue Dan does a myriad of things, but making you in the middle of a completely horrific battlefield is one of his best.
Yes. So what we should do then is we'll go through it and then we'll talk about why this is different, I guess. Yeah. But what we should probably do is start off with Mira, your action movie summary.
Thank you so much, Ian.
Of this book.
Okay. In a world where things are already pretty rough, praise the Emperor that you're not a citizen of Verenhive, because they're about to have a pretty terrible day, week, heck, probably the worst months of their lives, if they live. Do you like war? Do you really, really like war? You better if you're reading this. Welcome to Hell on Earth. A normal city going about its normal day. People are shopping, stealing, bureaucrating, living their lives. Oh no, it's rotten, incompetent leaders ignore warnings of an attack and they find themselves under siege. Luckily, Gaunt and his ghosts are here to defend and protect as best they can. For the next 300 however many pages, there is an impenetrable siege and a lot of war. The incompetent leaders remain and mess up loads of good ideas. Will Gaunt save everyone? Will you still like war after this? Probably a lot more. Let's go.
I forgot how much incompetence of leadership is in this. Like, the previous two have basically had one posh guy.
Exactly.
And his posh mates. Whereas in this one, you've got Wanker Commissar.
Yeah. Wanker Banker.
Wanker Banker. Yeah, Wanker Banker. Evil Commissar. You've got insane leader who has control of the only defences. You've got then you've got a whole network of like bad commissars who are like pen pushing bureaucrat commissars, and it's like everyone's terrible.
It's like the stratum of horrible.
None of those are the bad guy.
Oh my god, the bad guy! There is a big bad guy in this.
Bad guy in a pyramid.
And I want Ian to tell me a bit more about this, because if you click on the name of the bad guy, there are a lot of things about him in Warhammer.
Which is the bad guy in this? It's Heritor Asphodel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about us getting to that bit, and you can tell me a bit about that.
Okay, all right. So yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. I'm amazed actually. This is not as big as it feels.
Yeah, it's like the TARDIS. Yeah. Like, you open this tiny, innocent-looking book, and it's like...
Yeah. I mean, that's about the same size book as Ghostmaker. But it feels like 3 times longer. Look, I've just checked. The lettering is the same size.
It feels like the lifetime of an Eldar.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, good reference. So we open not with the ghosts. We open somewhere else to set up the scene, and we meet loads and loads of our side characters who are going to become, some of them will become very important for the next 10 books. Anyway,
into a very false sense of security.
We're on Vervenhive, which is a hive city on the planet of Vergast, and it suddenly comes under attack from its neighbouring hive, Ferozoica.
So we think.
It is Ferozoica, but we don't know why. And they all think it's like a trade war. There's these things that have happened in the past, like this trade war, and it's that.
It's a very similar Phantom Menace plot. Is it a trade war?
Is it
a
an
sinister
evil?
Yeah.
Yeah. And we meet a load of people. We meet Livy Collier, but not for long. And
horrible.
Yeah, it's true. We meet her. We just meet her, really, because the first thing that happens, almost the first attack, is on a transit hub, which she's in with her kids, Dallin and Yonsi Collier.
It's horrible. It's a civilian attack. But I'm aware you're saying those children's names because I'm imagining they become Gaunty.
Everyone becomes Gaunty.
Gaunty.
So Dallin and Yonsi, their transit hub is bombed. They're the only survivors, and they get saved by Tona Creed, this 15-year-oldish hive ganger,
who soon becomes lots of people's favourite ghost.
Yeah, she's going to be. Yeah, she
becomes a legend.
Yeah. So you have Tona Creed, right? Then you see Gilda Werlin, who's already a bit of dick. He wants to get. The bombing starts happening. He really wants to get home.
Gilda
so he kills
Wanker Werlin.
Everyone on a train to get home.
He has a special
needle gun. Yeah. So he does that. He kills everyone on a train.
Yeah.
We meet Gol Collier.
Yeah.
Don't know if you immediately realise that's the dad from the family at the start, but he's a miner
tragic.
outside the city.
Yeah.
And his mine shaft collapses. We meet Salvador Sondar, a weirdo and the leader of Vervenhive, who lives in a room full of meat puppets and refuses to do anything.
Yeah, he seems like out of a whole nother film.
Yeah, he's like out of like a David Cronenberg film.
He's like something out of Barbarella the movie.
Yeah.
It's nuts.
And he's like, it must be a mistake. I like Ferozoica. They're nice to me. In my dreams, I remember vaguely, and will not raise the shields.
Can I just say, this really annoyed me the whole way through. If you've got an inkling something bad's happening, why not just raise the shield? Just while you chat it out.
Turn it on.
Hey, Ferozoica, just checking the shield is all good.
Yeah, it's fine. You accidentally bombed me.
Yeah. So we're just going to check. Anyway. Sorry.
Anyway, Commissar Cole.
Yeah.
Who leads a heroic charge out to meet what they then realise is the forces of Ferozoica are walking to them, like all of them.
Yeah.
And Commissar Cole leads a big heroic charge out, but it's really stupid. He is defeated. The charge is defeated, but Cole escapes and becomes a bit of a hero. He becomes known as the People's Commissar and appears on propaganda videos around the hive. And then eventually Sondar raises the shield, and the administratum in the city officially call for help.
Yeah.
So they're like, right, Zoika's attacking again. It's a trade war.
Yeah.
Help.
I mean, I can't remember if this is the beginning. I think before they call for help, maybe, they do this thing where everyone's fleeing out of the city. They all run out of the city. Like, oh my God, we're going to die. The city closes the gates.
Yes.
The enemy comes round and just murks all the civilians.
Yeah,
and that's when I phoned you and was like, this is not...
This is the tone for the war to come. So we're going to do...
Very, very brutal. And the first time, really, I've seen a lot of civilian deaths and losses.
Also, like, we've got to remember that people like... I don't know when we meet Sorik. I've missed Sorik out of this a little bit, but Sorik and his smeltery workers. We know that Collier mines outside the city.
Yeah.
So there's areas outside the city that they cannot get back from, and they're trapped in the mines.
Yeah.
And
I mean, I never ever really refer to maps that much, but with you kind of really need to with Necropolis, and I mean, it actually really helped to make everything feel that much scarier and worse.
Yeah. To figure out where the spoil is and all this sort of thing. Anyway, so this all happens. They're all waiting for reinforcements from the Northern Highest. So we then cut away. So this is like the whole setup is like, this is what's happened. This horrific war has broken out. No one knows why. Zoika are coming. Zoika have gone back to war. And we cut away to the army being rerouted. So essentially, troops are rerouted in from Monthax, which was the last place we were in Necropolis, I think.
Yes, I think you're right.
The Gaunt's Ghosts, the Narmenian Armoured, the Roan Deepers, and the Volpone Bluebloods, including General Sturm.
Who's not our
Notches
favourite.
Sturm, we don't like him.
He's on the bastard scale already.
And they arrive and they have a little briefing and they will have to meet the people. And there's a little bit of a like who's in charge thing because there is a local army leader and there is also a Hive Commissariat, the VPHC.
VPHC.
Yeah, which who are dicks. So there's a Verven Primary is the army that's standing army of Vervenhive.
Yeah.
So they're technically in charge. And everyone's his advisor or something, but they have to have this meeting with Commissar Cole, who basically goes, look, there are millions of Zoikans, way more than it should be. In fact, it's like every man, woman, and child has gone to war.
Yeah.
Which means it's a chaos uprising.
Yeah.
There's also, we've had this weird thing where like weird messages are being broadcast into Sondar's tank, which is why he's going mad and doesn't know what's going on.
It's a bit bizarre because I was not expecting... I mean, it's very heavily hinted at. You don't know the extent of the chaos, but it's always a bit of a shock when it's so, like, very human, and then all of a sudden you think, oh no.
Yeah.
The warp is involved.
Yeah, no, it's all chaosy.
It's going to be,
So we get to part 2, right? Gaunt originally is like, right, we're going to sortie out and catch the Zoikans, but Sturm and the Verven Primary, who are like going to be the sort of bad good guys, are like, no, we're just going to dig in.
Yeah.
And then the first Zoikan assault hits, which is full of these like weird contraption stalk tanky vehicles they've never seen before, which are called woe machines.
Which, can you play those?
No, not really. No, they're very much one of the things that's so weird. It's only in a few of these books. Gaunt gets sort of contact. So Gaunt's the one who's like, right, we should go out and head them off.
Yeah.
And Sturm is like, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to stay here and do nothing. So Gaunt then gets approached by Lord Chass.
Yeah.
Who implies they might need to like do some cooing if they want to get anything done, because the Verven Primary aren't going to do nothing, and and Sturm's not going to do anything. They also meet. It switches like point of view quite a lot during this.
It does.
So you get Dr. Dorden goes off to help generally from the attacks.
Yeah.
And he meets Anna Kurth.
Yeah.
Who is like a local medici. Yeah. And they find all these strange needle wounds in one particular carriage. So you suddenly get a murder mystery, which very occasionally happens.
We know who it is.
Yeah.
But they don't. And I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. It's a bit Columbo, isn't it?
It is. I feel like they could have done it a bit more. I like that someone's like, well, we've got 500 points of view already in this war with too many bad guys. What should we do? How about roll in a murder mystery as well?
Come on, Dan.
Yeah. So then you get, so basically they're all helping out as best they can. Then we get the second assault on the walls. So the second assault goes really badly, and it exposes that the Verven Primary are sort of a bit rubbish.
They're very overwhelmed very quickly. They haven't have no idea what extent of all the baddies. Obviously, Gaunt's ghosts have been through all the trauma.
Yeah,
So
and the Vervin do not have. They've just had normal wars, not this chaos weirdness. Modil particularly is incompetent, and we get a Gaunt being a commissar moment because Gaunt shoots Modil, who is like a Vervin high command.
That really shocked me. I mean, I wanted him to.
Yeah, because loads of people die because he doesn't know how to keep communication lines. Yeah, it's really dodgy. So anyway, there's a second assault. It's almost like sometimes the assaults are very much secondary to all the character stuff going on.
I know.
Because there's and then there was a big war.
Yeah.
Anyway, Tona Creed meets Kathran.
I don't know. I thought it was woven in quite carefully, and the way that he does that makes you want to read quicker. Because you're like, I've got to get into the war bit because I need to find out what happens, and then you're not straight back into the other people. There is another storyline and another one.
Yeah.
And that's when you end up with a book falling on your face at 3 a.m. So beware, it's a page turner.
Yeah. So we do the second assault on the walls, which goes badly and exposes how fucked the Vervin Hive
and this is are. You've made a note of this, but this is where they all start chanting Heritor Asphodel.
Yeah,
which is like
that's the bad guy for this episode.
See? We told you.
Yeah.
Trade war. Bottom.
Yeah. Basically, McColl's out being a scout on the spoil, which is like this massive slag heapy, mountainy, hilly area near the city walls.
It's very cool to see him doing his expert stuff.
And he discovers that all the Zoikans are chanting Heritor Asphodel. And Gaunt knows of this guy from Balhort, which is this it's a shrine world, but it's where the big end battle of the previous stage of the crusade happens, where Gaunt stopped being, where Slado died and promoted Gaunt to Colonel Commissar, where he fought with his previous regiment, the Hirkans.
Okay.
And where the Imperials won a big victory and killed the previous Anarch, enemy leader.
Yeah.
Archon? Yeah, something like that.
So is this guy, Heritor Asphodel, is Asphodel like a big bad in the Warhammer universe?
No. So all the people in this are kind of tied to just this campaign. So this thing happens kind of... one of the nice things about the Sabbat Worlds Crusade is it's primarily in these books.
Yeah.
Doesn't really happen anywhere else. And it's one of those ways of showing how big the universe is. Like in this colossal decades-long crusade, you do not meet a single model named character from the game.
Oh,
it's
interesting.
And it's still millions of people and thousands of worlds and hundreds of enemy figures, but that's just like a drop in the ocean in 40k.
I just thought because he's so demon-y.
No,
because that really terrifies me. So the 40k universe is full of just common or garden hedge type demons.
Yeah. Horrific humans.
Freaking awful.
And you don't, there's very few Chaos Space Marines in it. This is just what horrible people do.
Yeah.
This whole Sabbat Worlds Crusade. Heritor Asphodel is one of the, I can't remember the name for them. It's like the lieutenants of the current, oh God, why am I remembering I can't remember any of the actual names for the sort of ranks of the enemy in this. What's the leader of the enemy called? It's not the Anarch. Is it called the Anarch? I think it's the Anarch.
I don't know. We can Google it.
The arch enemy have an Anarch who was killed. The previous one was killed by Slado at Balhort. So they're all meant to be in disarray a bit. But all of his leaders are vying for position. They don't yet know who the new one is.
Oh, Lord.
Which of these lieutenants is going to become the new leader of the bad guys. And there's loads of them, and they're all weird and horrible in their own ways. Because to be a lieutenant conquering planets, you've still got to be a bit demony. Yeah. So Heritor Asphodel is like a mechanic-y person and makes hideous demon machines. That's his thing, these woe engines.
God bless him.
Yeah, that's his specific bit. I think last time we had Sholan Skara was killed in one of the other ones or something like that. There's a few of them. So basically what we get is Tona Creed, while this is all happening, there's a load of other plot bits. Tona Creed meets Kathran when she's scavenging supplies.
Yeah.
And Kath's leaving out food for her.
That's so nice. She's obviously terrified, doesn't want to be anywhere close to any of the troops, but he fills up he gives her a packed lunch.
Yeah, gives her a little packed lunch.
And she starts to trust him. And he also leaves a Gaunt ghost patch.
A pin, the hat pin.
Yeah, how cute is that? I think we need to get those
Gaunt's ghost hat pins so that we can be like Tona Creed. And Dallin and Yancey. Important point about the two sons. Yeah. Very important to say this right now. The two sons of Gol Collier, Dallin and Yancey Creed. Remember that. So Gaunt and Grismond are pulled up on charges by the VHPC.
This was so awful.
Yeah, so they're arrested, and I can't remember what it's for. Oh no, they were trying to get to the front in the second assault, and they took a detour through a zone they weren't meant to take a detour through. So Grismond, who is the tank commander, gets locked up, and the VPHC, despite all this horrific stuff happening, despite McCall being like, "It's Heritor Asphodel, this is horrific," the VPHC are like, "Yeah, we're not letting Grismond go. He's on charges."
Yeah, it's like the most ridiculous point where admin could come in. It's like, we just saved like a whole section of the city and drove off all these monsters. And they're like, but you didn't do what we said. But if they had done what they said, they would have all died. Yeah. And then they're being punished for it. And I really got stressed out. I was like, if they kill, because they're going to kill one of them as well, right? Secretly. I thought if they kill Grismond, I'm just going to not read the end.
Yeah, it was going to be a death thing. You get a lot of the sense that, like, at this point, the Vervenhive forces are being shown up for being crap and really do not want to in any way lose the initiative by proving that they know what they're doing. They're following all the regulations.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then we get the third attack hits in part 3.
And this is, I've never read war like this.
Then we get to the third attack. And there's a huge new attack on the city. The eastern wall is collapsed by mines. And Nash, who is the leader of the Roan Deepers, spots this massive armoured column approaching from Zoika. At the same time, you've got, by this point, we've also been watching Gol Collier and Agun Sorik and their buddies do a load of fighting. So you've got Gol Collier, who's out in the spoil,
who managed to get out of the mines.
And he's got a team with him who include like deaf people. So they've devolved a sign language, and a lot of their like snipers and shooters are deafened by the explosions.
Yeah.
And you've also got like, what is it? Smeltery 13. It's like Agun Sorik is like the union boss of an iron smeltery that got destroyed. So has sort of formed this, they're all forming into things called scratch companies.
Yeah.
Like militia just fighting, because they can't get back in the city. They're just fighting the Zoikans wherever they can.
And that made me so happy because they were like, obviously they were like these, one not a natural leader but doing it because he had to, and the other one quite a natural leader
but like really old and a bit slow and sort of like he's the old union smeltery boss.
That gave me hope that these scratch companies were popping up. So
so at the same time, Gaunt then goes to free Grismond from the stockade, helped actually by Sturm.
Yep.
Who almost tried to run away. Basically, when the third assault happened, the eastern wall collapsed, Sturm was like, well, screw this. There's no chance. We can't win. Leave. Basically, in order to try and save face, Sturm, Gaunt, he has to help Gaunt. Yep. So you have this weird point where like the Blue Bloods are helping to break Grismond out. They free Grismond, arrest Cole, kill some VPHC. Right,
busy schedule.
It's really loads are happening right now, and at that point, mad old Salvador Sundar shuts down the shield.
See, we've had 2 bits of war already.
Yeah.
This was the most hectic thing I've ever read.
It's so much. And you're like, the Gaunts are just spread all over, the ghosts are spread all over the city by this point.
They're all in like terror.
Rawn's having his own freaking plot where him and the Roan Deepers are holding the main gates against people.
It's immense. And then you just think, there's going to be some relief. And then the shields go down.
Yeah, and then the shields go down. So, Gaunt, Gilbert, Sturm and Chas go and try and fix it, right? Sorry, I was a bit confused. At this point, when Gaunt, Gilbert, who's the leader of the Volconic Blue Bloods, Sturm and Daddy Chas goes to try and fix this. Sturm panics when he sees it and runs away and tries to actually escape the world. He's like, this is a lost cause. We're pulling back. Gaunt and Gilbert kill Sondar.
Yes.
Then Chas dies turning back on the shield. He's like a high level noble, so he can turn back on the shield, but he dies of his wounds.
Yeah.
So the shield goes back, but by this point, Sturm has tried to run away, and there's like a kind of a truce between Gaunt and Gilbert.
Yeah. But also, Chas is very, very unique because he's a noble character who does good.
Yeah, he's actually quite rare, isn't it?
So he does come and say to Gaunt, I think we're going to need to do this, but I was fully expecting the double cross.
Yeah.
Because he was a noble. So the fact that he gave his life up, I thought was really clever. I really liked that. Yeah.
At the same time, we're also in the middle of this massive battle. I think Creed and Kafran finally have to actually fight alongside each other because the Zoikans are getting in.
Yeah.
And then we go back to Gaunt, who is now in command because Sturm's run away.
Yep, so finally...
So Gaunt is now in command of the entire theatre.
So now we feel we might win.
Yeah. They sort of assume command. They've already assumed command by breaking out the stockade and arresting the VHPC and Cole. They've already assumed command over Vervin Priory. And then Sturm's run away, so Gaunt's now in charge. Which is important that he's like never been at this level before. Like he's never done big tactical command before. Yeah. So this is the first time he does that, does some commanding. Turns out he's pretty good. Things start to actually come back together because someone's in charge. Sturm is actually captured trying to kill Gaunt at the end of this. Like God. He comes back and puts, it's
so Gaunt's like, he basically says, I'm sorry, I was a coward. And Gaunt is like, it's fine. You know, you can kill yourself or
we'll arrest you and do it.
Or we'll arrest you. And so he gives the gun to Sturm, like, you can do the honourable thing, which is also gross. But Sturm tries to shoot Gaunt.
Yeah.
In the last act of being mega
evil, we think.
Looking forward to the bastard scale.
Yeah, bastard scale for what's the bastard scale if not just Sturm at this point? Right, okay. Sturm's captured after trying to kill Gaunt. He gets his hand chopped off by Gaunt. And then finally, which is like a really weird moment, but Gaunt then is very tired after a long day of commanding wars, breaking people out of stockades, killing Sturm, murdering meat puppet mad person. Sleeps with Chass's daughter.
Yeah.
Verity Chass comes and is like, hi, so you're the hero and my dad died, so want to have sex?
So this is the most James Bond thing I've ever read in a Warhammer book.
Because she doesn't exist before this.
She does a little bit. She has a couple conversations with her dad. Right. And I think she's a bit disappointed in her dad.
Yeah, because it took him a long time to stand. Yeah.
So, but it's very, very much... Oh, let me fall into your arms. Can you comfort me? By the way, I've got a secret weapon that could close down this whole war.
It's the secret USB pen stick, right?
Yeah.
That when you plug it into a computer, it wrecks the computer.
And it's like the first book where we got our secret decoder ring.
Yes.
So we always have to get the Gigor.
Yeah. The weird little thing anyway, so they get this device, which is like, we don't need it.
How do you unlock this device? Well, you must sleep with Chass's daughter.
Yeah. The side quest is you have to meet Chass, befriend her daughter.
Yeah.
She'll then just turn up and sleep with you, and then you get added to your inventory.
And then you can go and
kill any computer device. Okay.
Yeah.
Apparently the idea was that in the worst happens, it will wipe all the systems of the hive in case the hive ever gets
It's like an EMP, dead everything.
Right. Okay. Brilliant. So that we've established that.
We enjoyed that little
Jesus
side
Christ.
bit, didn't
right.
we? Yeah.
So then we get to part 4. And it's guess what? It's a massive fight. So this massive armoured column of Zoikans are starting to overrun the city. And at the minute, at the middle, they realise there's this big thing called the Spike, which is coming, which is like this massive pointy thing. I think it's about this time that they realise that when they start unmasking the Zoikans, they've all had their like eyes stitched shut and speakers stitched to their ears. And all of them are listening to this same broadcast again and again, which is the same broadcast Sondar was hearing.
Yeah.
And the same one that seems to be coming from this mobile thing called the Spike.
It's a bit like when you work in an office and someone leaves Radio 1 on all day.
Yeah.
And you just feel really old.
I'd certainly do a war. Yeah, I could see that. Lower the shield and please make it stop.
Pledge allegiance to Slanesh, quick.
Yeah.
This is one of the moments where I don't know if you've ever read The Stand by Stephen King.
No, I haven't.
It's about the world at the end of the world and splits into good and bad. And at the end of the book, you realise how perverse all the bad ones are, and you're just absolutely horrified. And you're like, it's really, really bad. It's just so apocalyptically. You know, people with eyes stitched. The Spike is this horrendous thing that kind of hurts to look at. On tracks,
like a massive pyramid on tracks. Yeah,
like a cultish, horrible.
And essentially it ends in a really weird way, I think, compared to the rest of the book, because then it becomes another Gaunt sabotage mission. Gaunt and his best buds go and infiltrate the Spike.
This is great.
They get
turns into a heist.
Yeah, it's like Gaunt's ghosts, the Volpone, and then Collia's spoilers from the spoil all do a sort of heist movie on the Spike. They use the USB stick to shut it down.
So it's like they have to break into the moving Spike.
Yeah, which like Collia does with like suicide bombers blowing up the tracks. Yeah.
They have to kill all the bodyguards inside and then put the USB in the special slot.
Yeah, and then Gaunt kills her Asphodel.
Yeah.
And then the signal dies.
praise the Emperor.
Yeah, and that's what happens.
And then we can have a little bit of a rest.
Well, yeah, because then they do this quite big epilogue, and I think actually epilogue's one of the biggest, most important fucking things.
Epilogue.
So what happens, right? It
Did
cuts to like,
epilogue?
yeah, I agree, because the epilogue's like, oh, we've got new characters.
No.
So you've got like 2 months later, Makaroth arrives, so the Crusade arrives, because previously they were like, oh, there's a trade war, so we'll just send the nearest ship, and the nearest ship is like half of them are dead. Every unit is decimated by this. All the ones that turned up. It turned out to be a major chaos incursion by one of the big lieutenants.
2 months.
And so the Crusade arrives with reinforcements. The city is destroyed. Basically, it's unrecoverable. So Makaroth issues this writ, giving all the citizens a chance to join up with the guard instead of moving to another hive city.
Yeah.
And a lot of them, because of Gaunt, a lot of them elect to join the Ghosts.
Yeah.
Which is really nice, because the whole point of the Ghosts is there aren't any of them. There's no one more from Tanith. They're the only survivors. So suddenly you realise that the way the Ghosts are going to survive
is replenishing.
Is by replenishing other sort of strays from other places.
Yeah.
So all these people, and a lot of them are like quite well suited to being Ghosts, because they're like infiltrating scratch guerrilla fighters.
Yeah, or sneaky like thieves and criminals,
and gangers and things like that. So the goat is basically Creed with Kathran, all of Agon Sorik's lot, all of Kalia's spoilers, and a lot of the Verven primary. There's a character called Bandar, who like is like the good Verven primary officer. A lot of the Verven primary, because there's no city anymore. A lot of them join up.
Yeah.
So they get this huge influx of people from hugely different backgrounds. Which I think is really nice. And then there's 2 things that happen. Randomly, Dan Abnett remembers he was starting a murder mystery.
No, he didn't. He perfectly placed this, because you think, as the reader, what, that guy's going to get away with it?
Yeah.
And, you know, we keep hearing about this horrible, slimy murderer the whole way through. Yeah. He's completely untouchable.
Yeah, well, so what happened, it turns out, is that Eastern assault...
It's his fault.
They got in through his pipeline.
Because he had refused to close his pipeline down when everyone said, look, close the pipelines down because we don't want future wars. Yeah. And he was like, I'm going to bet against everyone else and make my money. And that's how the first attack happened. And
he then turns up because he's realised that someone's looking for him, and he turns up in the medical centre.
To kill the witnesses.
To kill Kurth and Dorden.
Yeah.
And Gaunt kills him. So Warling gets killed.
But you don't know that Gaunt can do that, because basically you see him with his gun and then Gaunt's in there sick. Yeah. Because he was wounded by Sturm and manages to be in the right place at the right time, kills the murderer.
Yeah.
So I thought, so Dan did set it up very...
Yeah.
See?
I would have liked more investigating, but a few more investigating scenes. And then there's this really nice scene at the end where they're getting back on like a little ferry across the river to the staging ground, which I had to get onto before. When they got on the ferry first time, everyone was talking about Cole, the people's hero, and now they get back on and he's like... And they mistook Gaunt for him at the start.
Yeah.
And Gaunt was like, oh, I don't know who this person is. And now they see him and they're like, oh, it's the people's hero. And Gaunt's like, no, that guy's dead. And he's like, no, Gaunt, the people's hero.
Oh, so nice. But I mean, that's why I would like pledge fealty to Dan. Yeah. And I loved that the epilogue was all about displaced people who lost family were being absorbed into the Gaunt's ghost family, and I loved that so much. Although I'm a bit nervous, Milo's not the baby anymore.
No, well, this like Milo, there's like young people.
So Milo's my favourite because he's like the young one. So what will happen?
Well, there's loads of things that happen out of this, which is excuse me. There's loads of things that happen out of this, which I think is really good it's sort of a really good way of jumping from pulpy action adventures to like what everyone loves Gaunt's Ghost Ball, which is like feeling a bit more like a drama series. Yeah. And you've got people from different backgrounds, people who've joined up who maybe aren't, you're going to find people who've joined up who are like gangers and just did it for opportunity. Yeah. So you can have conflict in there. You've got female characters.
Yeah, a lot.
There's disabled characters.
Yeah.
Like, because they're taking everybody.
Yeah.
So you've got like a huge you've got people joining as like hangers on. Like we'll start Dallin and Yonsei come because there's a scene at the end where is this one with the scene at the end where Kalia realizes? Does he realize that? No, that it's just they both embark near each other, but they don't realize. Kalia doesn't realize his kids are still alive.
Yeah.
So Tona Creed turns up with 2 kids.
Yeah.
And Kalia also joins up, but they don't yet know that they're related.
Oh.
Yeah. So Kalia thinks everyone's dead.
Yeah.
And does not know that, and his children think everyone's dead, and they do not know that both of them have survived and joined the ghosts.
Oh.
So you get the train. You've got Kurth joins up as a Medicae.
Yeah. Yeah.
Loads of them all join up to. So this gives you like a huge way in which that story can be taken in future books, and it does.
I think it's great. I mean, I felt like we worked for that ending.
Yeah.
We've been so traumatized and seen torture and all kinds of hideous human nature, chaos nature, that ending, the epilogue was just perfect. So
yeah. It's a really good way of like just setting up what it's going to be because if every book was another like just these 1,000 guys from Tanith having another adventure, it would start to get boring, right?
Still,
So like the fact that like, okay, this is how this is going to work.
Yeah.
It's going to get really interesting. Who's your favorite new person?
I think it's got to be Tony Creed because she looked after the little ones, even though the mum was really horrible and judged her.
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember?
Yeah, the mum was a dick to her.
I know.
Yeah.
And I felt like she was just really brave, but not overstated. And I really loved that. It was a very gentle, slight introduction.
We get the first hints of a romance plot.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, obviously you get Merity Chas, but that's a James Bond plot. It's not really a romance plot. But Tona Crid and Kathran.
Yeah. I thought that was good. I thought the guy having the voices in his head and the puppet, the weird puppety bits, I thought that was quite cool, even though I didn't like it.
Yeah.
I thought that was interesting that you have these just even humans who are just a bit twisted and messed with.
It's interesting, like, those people aren't, like, the obvious thing to do, right?
Yeah.
Is the bastard scale.
Oh my God.
So Rawn's patented bastard scale, but, like, who are we measuring?
I can't even remember what Rawn did in this one.
He was pretty good. He mostly just fought a war and commanded his company quite well.
There was no bastardy.
He wasn't being that much of a bastard. He wasn't even near Gaunt.
That's why. They don't get along.
Yeah, so he wasn't really doing much.
Well, Sturm was already quite high on the bastard
Is Sondar on the bastard scale? He's kind of been corrupted by chaos, right?
That's the thing. I felt for him.
Is Heritor Asphodel on the bastard scale?
Yes.
Okay, fine. But who's higher on the bastard scale? Heritor Asphodel or Sturm? Sturm.
I think because he made it so personal.
Yeah.
He was like... Heritor Asphodel just wants to kill everyone in the name of chaos.
Yeah, he's just a generic chaos bad guy.
Sturm made it personal.
Likes Meccano and killing people.
Yeah.
Whereas Sturm is like an arsehole.
Yeah.
Actual arsehole. It is like, I know this is like the point where we diverge from the common criticisms of Gaunt's Ghost of it being a bit too much like Sharp. But in Sharp, the real bad guy is always your commander.
Yeah. I mean, I found my sense of reading the incredulous at them going, "You're holding a tribunal for what reason?" Sturm is like, he's in there at 11. He's awful.
What was Rawn last time?
I can't remember. We should have written this down.
Should have written this down, right? We should write this down in the future.
Pretty bad.
But we're going to put Rawn's at like a 2.
2?
Yeah, just low level.
No, he's not on the bastard scale.
He's always on the bastard scale.
Okay, he can be 2.
And Sturm's at 11.
Yeah.
And Heritor Asphodel gets like
10.
Okay, 10. All right. I was going to go for like 7 or 8 because the things he does are horrible, but he isn't really there being a bastard very often.
Yeah, and he's a little bit incompetent because if someone can break in and unplug
he has
the pyramid.
this thing, right? He has this giant pyramid that controls everyone from at least a distance. Like the Soikans who are invading the city are still under his control when he's nowhere near them. So why does he drive it into the city?
Well, you would if you had a fancy
chaos
pyramid.
Yeah.
I'd take that straight up to Nottingham Warhammer World.
But like, it feels like a mistake. Like, here's the one thing keeping control over everybody.
Yeah.
While the war's going on, I think I'll drive it into the middle. It works absolutely fine from hundreds of miles away.
But does chaos work alongside logic?
No, it doesn't. No, they probably like have more ritual significance to drive it onto the site
Yeah. You know, more random dice rolls.
Yeah.
The whimsy of the warp roll.
That's how that probably, So yeah, I think that was, I think it was, I think like in some of the Eisenhorn books, might have been a sense of, oh shit, there's 100 pages to go.
No, I
better do an espionage adventure.
See, as a writer, I think the only unbalance is the violence and the fighting. Bearing in mind it's a war book, we have to receive that. But when you look at how many different strands, if we had a database, it is done And most people love the war bit. Me, I could have a whole third of the book being the epilogue, but no one else would read that.
Yeah.
They'd be like, oh, these people seem fairly happy and normal. Get that out of here. So, but I mean, I think what happens is we have this thunder towards the end.
Yeah.
And then you've like given so much, he has to end it quickly.
And he has to end it with like a big moment.
A big moment. It has to be.
Yeah.
If they were like, guys, I've found the shield, we're fine. We've got loads of food here. Yeah. We're all right. You'd be like, oh.
I would have thought more like, we found the shield, it's outside the city, and now there's like in the spirit of the rest of the book, a 3-pronged thing where like McColl and the spoilers need to disable the shield while Gaunt radios to try and get the reinforcements to arrive in time to lance it when the shields are down so that Gaunt has to control it. But in the meantime, there's a revolt by the Verven Primary. I was like, well, that's the sort of world you're in, right?
Well, when they televise this, that's what it's going to be like, isn't it? 100%. The shield will have to be done at the same time that Gaunt is getting out of the prison.
While they're waiting for reinforcements to arrive to blow it up. And So that was Necropolis.
Yeah.
My favourite of the first 3.
Why is it your favourite?
I think I really like the big sprawling ones with loads of points of view. I also like the ones with loads of civilian points of view. And I think this had a real sense of, this isn't, I mean, the end was like an action movie, but this is a real sense of it's not an action movie, it's a war novel.
Yeah.
Like, this is real.
It's completely absorbing in that.
It's believable.
It's
like, the
so
idea
believable.
that, like, the first casualties are just some people at a train station.
Yeah.
And it's just mostly incompetence and people trying to save face.
Yeah.
Like, not even, like, the sort of cartoon theatrical villainy of Sturm or Dravir. Like, the Verven Hive Primary are just trying to save face.
Yeah. And
trying to show these off-worlders that they're good. Sorry.
And I know, I completely agree. And with the civilians, it's not like they're a bunch of civilians. You get to know them.
Yeah.
You like them. You want them to survive. When some of them are killed, you really care. And that is the beauty and the horror of Dan's writing.
Yeah. But I really like it.
I'm very scared about the next book.
Have you started Sabbat Martyr? Is it Sabbat Martyr?
No.
It's Straight Silver?
Honor Guard.
Honor Guard's very different and in a really interesting way. The setting is really interesting.
So the Honor Guard is very much of the Gaunt's ghosts in a city they're basically fighting it in an urban setting.
Yeah.
It's not going well for them. And there's more torture-y stuff going on already.
Yeah. It's like a more of a religious war. Yeah. Because they're on like a sort of piece, like a farmy world.
And it's like the camera is like amongst all the settlements, so you come around the side of an alley and then there's like, a skirmish, and it feels very much like you might play on your mat. And I'm a bit nervous because it's very full on.
It doesn't carry on like that.
Yes.
It becomes a really interesting little quest book. And it's very different in feel to Necropolis.
There are monks in it.
There are loads of monks in it. And Chelons.
But one of our favourites, I can't remember, one of the ghosts is actually being tortured. At the moment.
Okay, good.
And
Brilliant.
I think he's going to survive. Your video viewers, your YouTube watchers are not great. I think I know what's going to happen to the bad person.
Are they not very good at keeping the secrets?
No, they write things like, I can't wait to watch Mira's face and I try not to read. But so now whenever I read about certain characters, I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
But I still don't actually 100% know. So
sure.
All we need you to leave in the comments is compliments, money, and a little ghost for whether you like Necropolis on this video. If you like Ghostmaker, go and leave a ghost on that video comment. And if you like First and Only, go to that video and leave a little ghost there.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Fething brilliant.
Yay, thank you.
Gacking great.
Thank you for keeping me going. Gacking
great, yeah. No worries. We're going to keep going. You've started the next book of this before I have.
Other books we are reading.
We are reading other books. So right now there are other books. So as we said, end things what you're meant to do on this. So you have interviewed Dan ABNETT about this book a few months back. You did the whole first trilogy.
Yes, please come and watch it and sub to my YouTube channel. And you will have your other interviews are on there too, including the next one we're going to record, which is Flight of the Eisenstein. Yes, James Swallow.
We've done Flight of the Eisenstein. You're reading Fulgrim?
Yep, reading Fulgrim. We're also reading an 80s-tastic
yes, a classic
old Warhammer.
Yeah.
Ignorant Armies.
Yeah. And we're doing our most recent voted for one, which is Gothgul Hollow.
And we're listening to audio for that.
Yeah, I'm listening to the audio for it because the audio for it is hilarious. It's really well done, but it's brilliant. We'll get to that. But that's by Anna Stevens, and it's a Warhammer horror book. And it turns out we were a bit worried about Warhammer horror. Turns out it's horror in the sense of like Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. That's the tone of the horror happening, right? That's where we are.
No body torture.
So
no faces coming out people's stomachs.
No, none of that.
Yet.
So
I have to confess something to you as well. I don't know how you're going to receive this.
Okay.
Because I'm interviewing James about Fulgrim. I'm reading the first...
Graham about Fulgrim.
Graham.
Yeah.
About Fulgrim. Graham McNeil. I am reading the 2 Uriel...
Ventress novels.
Ultramarine books.
Oh, God, do I have to read those?
Have you read... Is that bad?
I mean, are you reading them? They're very early Black Library action novels. It's been a long time since I read the Uriel Ventress novels.
Well, I'm going to talk to him about Fulgrim.
Okay.
And everyone's like, Mira, it's horrible. Just be ready. I was thinking, if I read an Ultramarines book...
Yeah, that's like much more...
That's much more pure,
like...
right?
Yeah, hold on, trying to remember what happens in those novels. There is a famous moment.
Oh, gosh. Well, this is what we'll do. We've got so much to do. But this could be one of the things if you get time for a chat while you're away.
Yeah, because I'm going away for a while.
Yeah.
For work. So we might do some of those. Maybe we'll do some Ventress ones as a Zoom call. Yeah.
Only if you want Ian to do those books, do a blue heart in the comments.
There's so many. Okay, right. Good.
Loads of people love Ultramarines.
There's loads of people like Ultramarines. I quite like Ultramarines, but Ultramarines have been better realised, I think, more recently.
Okay.
They've been better like built out, whereas then they were still very much just like standard poster boy space marine.
Yeah,
but it's been a long time since I read them, so maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they're actually different to how I remember.
Hear me out. We'll go back. We'll read the history of them.
Yeah.
Talk about that. Then we'll do a newer one and we can look at the differences.
That's a good idea.
And then we can do
wait till we get to the Heresy Ultramarines novels. Because they're in the Heresy.
Yay! Are they still blue?
They're blue. Yeah, they're still blue. Cool. Right. So thank you, everybody. That was the outro. We've definitely remembered to say everything, haven't we? We'll see you. Yeah, Patreon. I've got one of those, and you've got one of those.
Please patronise us. And I get a lot of trouble. I have lots of really lovely mentors like Ian who say I should big myself up a bit more.
Oh yeah, you should do that.
So I do have a YouTube channel. I'm under the guidance of Ian, so it's nothing too crazy, and it's all very good because I try and do it for Ian's levels of quality. So
yes, brilliant.
So yeah, check it out and give me a support. I've bigged myself up.
You do that. You've bigged yourself up. Brilliant.
Yeah.
I'm still here. So that's my bigging up. Don't follow me right now because I'm not going to post anything for the next couple of months because I'm really busy. But yeah,
yes,
great. Watch all my old videos and load for the next 2 months. Yeah. Thanks. Yeah.
Rewatch all Ian.
Yeah, please.
Pop over to me.
Put me on play. That'd be really handy. Yeah, great. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time on the now definitely all of Warhammer Book Club.
Yay. Bye.